Sorry, Mike. No emails and nobody here in attendance for the open forum. So we'll skip number 3 with a response and go right to agenda item 4. Tom?
We have in front of you, this was discussed at the most recent Rules and Regulations Committee. This is a modification to policy 1.01, and it's trying to make it clear how to properly communicate with the board and the membership and what expectations should be, and letting them know that we have the info at BVVPOA, board at BVVPOA, and when you set it to board, it goes to all board members, not just to one, it just goes to all of them. Makes it really easy on the membership. And CEO, that goes to myself. I'll still have the Tom J at BVPOA that I've had for 9 years. Either will work. And so just kind of making it clear on how to communicate and then setting clear expectations. I think the board does a very good job of communicating with our membership and being very efficient with talking to our membership. But sometimes if it's over a weekend or if it's a complicated issue, you know, or the message gets caught in the spam filter, which happens sometimes, the member always has the ability that if they don't receive an email in a timely manner, we encourage them to come to the next board meeting to voice their questions or concerns. So they always have that option if they don't receive a response, or they don't receive a response that they like, or it's not clear enough, or what have you. They always have that at their disposal. So this would be a modification, and this would be added to policy 1.01 between Roman numeral 7 and 8. And if approved next week, this would be the first of 2 required readings. Are you going to say something, JB?
No, actually, he's being very nice. He said, be sure you turn on your mic. So I'd like to just say, because I believe this is what's going on here, is this has always been available. We're just making it more clear, and you've added another title, yet another way to get to you.
Correct.
Because it's always been there, but sometimes with new people, and just that's why we look at the rules and regs routinely to make sure that we can maybe say it a little better.
I think adding, over communicating is a good thing. What's the old saying? Say it once, say it again, and say it a third time, and hopefully it gets through. I'm destroying the saying, but something to that nature.
You were close enough. But no, that's the reason we do a lot of these things, and I like this.
Yeah.
I hope people look at it.
Okay, any comments on that? All right, we're going to move on to 1.04. We made more extensive changes to this, and we made some additional changes since the last Rules and Regulations Committee meeting. So this is, what I did was, in your packet you have the red line version, but what ends up happening is when it starts with me and goes to Doug and comes back and we start making, you have red lines, blue lines, it's all, and it gets really challenging to read. So this is what I would call the clean version, but then we went in and highlighted the changes in yellow. So not every word highlighted in yellow has been changed, but at least gives you the idea of where you should be looking for the changes, because the red line version is a mess. I gave up. So the first one is, and I tried to incorporate some procedural steps which were requested by board members. I think Kathleen brought that one up, or maybe Deborah. Doesn't matter. Okay. So under item 2, so first of all, we talked about this at the Rules and Regs. Prospective committee members would be asked 3 questions. What were 2 reasons that made you want to apply to serve on a JAC? What makes you a good fit to serve on a JAC? And identify how your experience might assist the JAC in their efforts to enhance the lives of our members. In addition to those 3 questions, we'll ask the standard stuff: name, are you a member, how long have you lived here, what committee you're interested in, because sometimes they're interested in multiple committees and so forth. So just general data, but this will be the meat and the potatoes. We will no longer ask for a resume or anything like that, because in some cases people haven't updated their resume in years since they retired or what have you. The next one is under item 2. The corporate secretary will forward the completed application from a prospective committee member to the respective committee chair, committee vice chair, and the chair of the board of directors. The committee chair will meet with the applicant either by phone or in person to conduct a brief interview. The respective committee chair, committee vice chair, and the chair of the board of directors have the sole authority to either forward the application on to the respective committee or to reject an application by majority vote. So that was an addition. I think, Deborah, you actually came up with that. Let's make sure that we have a conversation with the committee or the prospective committee member. Let's talk to them and see what they have to say. Then the next step is for those applications which have been forwarded to the JAC committee, the committee chair will invite the applicant to attend a committee meeting so that the committee members can briefly interview the applicant. Following the meeting, the committee chair will solicit an email vote from the committee members to decide if an applicant will be nominated to join the committee. And we're doing that email vote because we've had situations where we had multiple applicants that came to a committee meeting, and then a vote was taken right in front of the people, and they found out that they were in or not in right in front of everyone, and that's kind of embarrassing, or could be potentially embarrassing. So let's have an e-vote so that we want to be respectful of those candidates. Once the email vote by the committee has been finalized, the committee chair will then forward the nomination to the board for final approval. The board has the sole authority. That portion was not changed, even though it's highlighted in yellow. Then we made some additional changes to the terms just to make it easier, because we have a tendency, the committees have a tendency to have a lot of inflow and outflow of committee members, much more so than compared to the board directors. Board, we have once every 3 years, we have an opening, an unscheduled opening. Where with the committees, it's like once every 6 months, when it's a lot more often. So appointments and reappointments to the committees are to be made by at least the month of June, with terms beginning July 1st and each term being 3 years. If a committee member cannot complete the 3-year term of service, the committee will follow the procedures outlined above in section Roman numeral 2.1 to appoint a replacement member. If the initial term for a new committee member begins before July 1st due to the new committee member replacing a member who was unable to serve a full term, the partial first year will count as a full year of service. By counting the partial year as a full year of service, this will ensure all terms conclude on June 30th of their respective 3rd year. So it's a little bit clunky, trying to make it as clear as possible, but I think it works. And then on 8 is a member may not serve on more than one JAC at a time. And the conversation on that was JACs, which are very specific, but we do have other committees that this policy would not apply to. So I'm going to pick on Bob Ritchell, is on the Charitable Giving Committee and the Elections Committee, and that would not be a violation of this because those are not JAC committees.
I think the way I read this, I just want to verify, the committee chair does not have sole authority to reject a
No.
candidate. It's required. Okay.
No. It's that group
The three.
The three, we'll do an initial filter, and then it'll go to the committee as a whole.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a choke point. Say a committee chair wants to renew and has challengers, I just wanted to make sure they didn't have the authority that, nope, you can't come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, and I think, I like that we added the encouragement, or the, hey, you need to have a conversation with this person. Let's, a brief phone conversation is not a heavy lift. If you want to bring them in, you want to go have a meeting, you want to have lunch with them, then you're going above and beyond. But let's have a conversation with that volunteer. Let's make sure that, you know, for the board of directors, we have a 1 hour orientation for candidates. Well, I don't think we need to have a 1 hour orientation for a committee member, but we probably should have something to make sure that they understand what they're, you know, we meet once a month. This is what our expectations are. This is the forms that we use. Let's make sure we educate the person so they understand. Maybe one meeting a month is too much for them. So let's find out before they get on the committee.
I think there's several things about this that I like. First of all, I feel like it's very thorough. It's been very well thought through. The second thing I like is that it's going to ensure consistency among the different committees, which we have not been, and that can be very confusing. And the final thing that I think that's really good about this is this will really help guide a new chairperson. When I was chair on rec, I was fortunate. The prior chair was there to mentor me for my first year, to guide me and give me advice. If you don't have that luxury, someone could be left trying to figure out how to maneuver their way through and not know what to do. So I think this is very thorough.
And I didn't mention this, on the 3 questions that were developed, those were developed by, I was in communication with the 3 committee chairs. And so I got that, they were the ones that actually developed the 3 questions, and then we made some adjustments to them, and I sent them back out to the 3 committee chairs, and they all gave thumbs up. So it wasn't management or the Rules and Regulations Committee developing these questions, you know, with blinders on. It was actually the committee chairs that are, you know, doing the job right now.
That's really good to hear, because I think I heard you say that the other day. The other thing that I'd like to ask is, excuse me, everything looks good on paper sometimes. How much of this is actually, I'm sorry, I've never been on one of those committees, is a change? And how will that be passed on to the committees so they know about how we're doing things now?
I'm gonna take what Deborah said, is right now, there is no consistency and there is no guidance, and there's been multiple times where committee chairs have come to me, maybe even Deborah did it, so I don't remember if we had, and you know, how do we get people on the committee, and we're like, hey, it's up to you.
Oh.
That's our guidance, because there is no guidance. You know, it's whatever you want to do. I mean, we try and be supportive and we give examples and everything, but you have committees that are doing it different ways. And if you have a property owner that's interested in serving on multiple, or serving on potentially different committees, and they're doing it in different ways that may not look good. So this gives them a roadmap. It helps give them a roadmap. And if you look at some of the changes that we've been making to the policies over the last few years, is we are really adding more of a roadmap approach to a lot of things. Last year we made a lot of changes to how the chair is elected. That meeting is now it's very almost rigid. This is what you do, where before that I don't think we even had a policy on it. And so we developed a policy and a procedure. So Doug and I are trying to add more guidance to the policies to give them a roadmap. They still have the freedom to have an interview, talk to the people. So we're not confining them. We're just trying to give them, hey, look, here's the guidance. If you can stay within these parameters, I think you're going to be in good shape.
And I think that's great, but how will the committees now know about this if they don't go out there and read it? I mean,
Oh,
will there be some sort of orientation or like blah, blah, blah?
we'll have a conversation.
Okay,
You know,
good.
It's premature now because it hasn't even been.
I know.
Hasn't even had one vote, let alone two.
Right.
But once approved, and the timing is actually perfect because this would be, theoretically, I mean, I'm not speaking for the board, they haven't voted yet, but if approved by the board, it would be done by the end of April, which would give them the opportunity to implement this for this go-round.
Okay.
We'll meet with all three of the chairs and go over it, and Jessica will develop the form, the sign-up form, and we'll make sure it's also on PDF so people can do it electronically, so they don't have to, use pen or paper and, make it easy on people.
Just a comment, I don't think it's a change, but I think that as you review this with the chairs, maybe reemphasize that it's their responsibility to let any applicant know if they weren't accepted. It's on here and it's highlighted, but I don't think it's a change. I think that's been there. But I did come across an applicant who applied to a committee and didn't hear back, and then I had to notify that chair, please contact this person and let them know. And so I think just maybe reemphasize that that's very important after the fact as well.
That is an addition.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I said earlier
Okay.
that it wasn't, that I think I just was like, okay, and the rest is good, and I missed the last sentence. That was an
Right.
ad because of that exact situation. We had a situation several years ago with where an applicant was not told that they had been rejected. And then they pinged us back and said, hey, what happened? And it turned out that the committee, not maliciously, the committee chair had just failed to contact them in a timely manner. And so now we're saying, hey, you need to have a conversation with them and let them know, because that's the respectful, these are your neighbors, let's be respectful.
Well, I think that the fairness of this, I love it because you've got three different committee people that are determining and interviewing the candidates before it moves forward. And then the committee itself gets to vote on them individually as they come forward. And to Jackie's point, I've heard the same thing, that some people have applied and never heard a word. Yeah. Or the one person that was supposed to the chair didn't really care for them. That was the implied deal. So this is beautiful and I'm all support of it.
You said something that sparked a thought. I don't know if it applies to this specifically, but maybe when you talk to them, sometimes it's hard to get committee members. You'll have openings and you don't have anything. And what I didn't think about when I first started is it's kind of the role of the chairperson to kind of try and recruit people too. And so that might be just some food for thought for them to think about.
I mean, there was years, I mean, back 8-9 years ago, we really struggled to get volunteers. Now it's been a little bit easier, which is good. And in some cases, we have multiple applicants for an opening, which is outstanding. But yeah, back several years ago, it was like we'd go to the committee members and say, okay, you can't leave until you find a replacement, or else we're going to be below.
Along those same lines, I feel like that's part of our role, is because we get asked a lot of questions, and somebody who you think would be great and is very interested, definitely forward the name forward with them.
And I like the fact that when somebody applies for a role on the board and they're really kind of new and don't really understand how things work, that we recommend to them, I believe it's even in writing, please start with one of the JACs, and that way you'll learn the process.
Yeah, it is encoded in our,
Yes.
But it's a recommendation.
Yes.
But we have multiple individuals here that were committee chairs, and I think every single one of you guys have said it was invaluable being a committee chair or a committee member. A JAC committee member prior to getting on the board was helpful. It gave you a taste of how things work.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, I need to go on record, Director Coughlin, Director Vandenberg, and Director Fosdick are not here today, so I said it. If there's anything else, we'll go into announcements. Is there anything else from anybody this morning? Nope. All right, announcements, Board of Directors regular session is Thursday, March 27th, 6 PM here in the boardroom and live stream. And all of these are in the boardroom or live streamed unless otherwise noted. Lakes JAC, April 9th at 2 PM. Golf JAC follows Lakes at 4 PM on April 9th. Board of Directors general meeting, not general meeting, closed meeting is April 10th at 2:30 here in the boardroom. Again, that is a closed meeting. The election for the Board of Directors begins April 14th. The ballot proxy will be sent out to the members in good standing via email and mail. Recreation JAC meeting Monday, April 14th at 4 PM. Board of Directors, our next work session is April 17th at 9 in the boardroom here, and the next the April regular session is April 24th. And again, does anybody have anything else? If not, we will adjourn.